Time now for the latest edition of One-on-One with Budd Mishkin. Bud's here now with the story of a man whose work has been seen for more than a half-century. Bud.
Louis, tonight's profile is in the Theater Hall of Fame. The irony is, so many New York theater goers have seen his work without knowing his name. But theater veterans know the name Alvin Colt. After more than 60 years on Broadway, how does Alvin Colt still have the energy to keep working?
I got a lot of pills. all from my doctor. All legitimate.
You probably don't recognize him. But if you love theater, you might recognize his work as a costume designer in shows like Little Abner and Guys and Dolls, and his latest show, Forbidden Broadway. When Colt did his first show on Broadway, Franklin Roosevelt was president and the Allies had just stormed the beaches at Normandy. It was December 1944. The show, On the Town.
The first show, for all of us connected with it. Leonard Bernstein's first show, Jerry Robbins' first show, Betty and Adolph, mine, Oliver Smith, and none of us had ever done a Broadway show before.
It's pretty good company.
Oh yeah, but none of us had arrived yet.
I spent a day with Alvin Colt at the Museum of the City of New York, walking through an exhibit of his sketches from his long Broadway career. Some are on the wall.
This was Fanny. This was the first big show I did with David Merrick.
Some are kept in storage.
This is Wildcat again. This was the whole scene. There was a Mexican scene.
In all, Colt says there are 3,000 sketches and almost as many stories about people with whom he's worked. Orson Welles.
One of the critics said that Orson had everything in it but the kitchen sink. So at curtain calls, he used to push out a kitchen sink.
And meeting Mae West for a show that eventually was scrapped.
And I'm in this room all by myself, waiting. And my goodness, this is Mae West's bedroom. What am I doing in here?
But dish the dirt on camera about stars he's worked with? No.
And you wouldn't like to tell us one or two of the people that
No, that wouldn't be fair.
That would be bad for him.
That would be bad.
Alvin Colt is too much of a gentleman to do that, a product of a different era. When you've been working on Broadway for more than 60 years, it's easy to lose count of the number of shows you've worked on. But Colt vividly remembers some of the reviews along the way, the good ones.
Brooks Atkinson, who was the critic on the New York Times at that time, and highly honored. And in his review, he said, not since My Fair Lady have we seen such beautiful costumes. I thought it was a pretty good compliment.
And the not so good ones.
And the costumes were sadistically repulsive. So, you think twice when you read things like that.
He's designed for thousands of actors through the years. Easier clothing them than remembering them all, as Colt experienced at a recent event.
I never had so many people come up and shake my hand and kiss me on the cheeks and everything. I don't know who in the hell they were. You don't.
Isn't that part of the charm of being 90, though?
I guess so.
But the reality for Colt now is that most of the people he's working with in the theater are 50, 60, even 70 years younger than him.
All my collaborators, just about all, are gone.
And what is that experience like when all of your colleagues, your contemporaries?
It's empty. There's nothing you can do about it. And then you meet the new ones, and they're all impressed that you did shows with this one, you did shows with that one, you dressed this one, you dressed that one. I mean, they love hearing about it and all, but that doesn't mean that you're going to get together and collaborate on something. You might not. You never know.
How does Alvin Colt view himself in his 90s? By looking around.
When I go to the doctor's office, people waiting, I'll think, my goodness, look at that guy over there. He's not as old as I am, and look what a mess he's in, It's true.
His story began in Louisville, where he made his theatrical debut by creating shows in his room.
I had my toy theater that I'd built, where the curtains went up and down and side to side. I had my Humpty Dumpty circus. I had some very small miniature dress figures.
What he didn't have was an appreciative audience.
My brother always made the excuse that he had to do his homework. My mother would be on the telephone, and my father would lock himself up in the bathroom. So I would have to do the shows all alone.
Only a few years later, both of his parents died. Colt says the deaths didn't make him bitter, perhaps more independent.
I think I probably went after things and did things that I probably never would have dreamt of doing before, because I had no one to say, don't do that.
He would eventually go to the Yale School of Drama in the mid-30s. He says his height, 6'6", kept him from being drafted, and he made his way to New York City.
What was it like?
Well, now how can I answer that? What was it like? I was learning about all sorts of things that I never knew about before.
He first worked in ballet, doing costumes for a performance that opened at the old Metropolitan Opera House.
I'll never forget that opening night when that big gold curtains swooshed up like that and all my girls were on the stage and the audience applauded. You don't forget things like that. Get you right in here.
His ballet connections led to the theater. He won a Tony in 1956 for his combined work on 3 different shows that year. Perhaps his most famous show, Guys and Dolls.
That was a big hit, and we all knew it was going to be a big hit too.
Colt says he had a chance to invest $5,000 in the show, but couldn't convince his friends to contribute.
So I couldn't raise any money, and I had to turn it down. Well, of course, the show was a smash hit, and here I regretted that I'd never invested, because I could have made a big bundle.
It's not many of us who can say that one of their first paying gigs was almost 70 years ago. Before Colt became part of Broadway, he actually designed costumes for the Ford Motor Exposition at the New York World's Fair in 1939. The exhibit was called 1,000 Times Nay. He also did costumes for the movies, like Little Abner, and the opera. But mostly his work was seen on the Broadway stage through the 90s and this decade. Retire? Colt says he hates the word.
I might be fooling myself, because if you don't get asked to do anything, it's I guess in some ways it's kind of because you're in that retirement.
Alvin Colt's story is a major part of New York theater through the second half of the 20th century. But he hopes it's a story not entirely in the past, a story with a few more chapters to go.
I'd like to feel that I'm not finished.
Like there's always one
This
more
may be
step,
archaic
right?
material, but if somebody came to me right now and it was something I really wanted to do, and I really feel that I could do a great job on it, I'd jump on it.
The Alvin Colt exhibit at the Museum of the City of New York runs through July 8th, 3 days after his 91st birthday. And Colt's work on Forbidden Broadway rolls on. He's now worked on the show 13 years.